like, it's 147 proof. It's not smooth. Shut up. Yeah, don't tell me that's smooth.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the inaugural, we didn't name it yet, podcast.
We have no idea what it's going to be called yet.
The Whisky Uncut, Whisky Unfiltered, Uncut and Unfiltered, not sure. So we're off to a good start. We
have no name, but yeah.
We have no name, we have no logo or artwork, but that doesn't matter because we're creating the content. So I think today we are going to talk a little bit about barrel picks versus standard store picks. So I'm Paul. I'm from Malt Mondays, and this is James representing Bourbon Sippers.
Yeah, I think I've been with Bourbon Sippers for about 3 or 4 years now, and we've been talking about doing this, I think, for about just as long. So it's nice to get together to do this. It'd be fun.
Yeah, and you started off just writing as a guest writer, correct?
Yeah, so a couple of my friends started up Bourbon Sippers, and they knew I was a scientist and I had some writing background. So I started doing a lot of reviews, particularly for craft products, because I just really like traveling around and trying different whiskeys. And from there, it just sort of expanded pretty quickly, I think.
Nice. Yeah. So you really focused on the writing side. I just kind of went straight to video and off the cuff, not really thinking about what I was saying, just in front of a camera, whatever came to mind, rambling on and on. So
right, yeah. So this is me unscripted, which is going to be a little bit different.
Yep. And the whole concept here is we're not going to cut anything out. The podcast is going to be unedited.
Oh, so we should go with Uncut then, if it's going to be unedited, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was kind of the idea behind the name.
Okay,
the double
gotcha.
entendre
Right.
of uncut, unfiltered, like bourbon, but podcast, compared to my YouTube videos, which are nice and polished, make me look really good.
Yeah, those are nice videos. I like those.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I've been trying. I don't always succeed in providing them in a timely manner because unfortunately YouTube's not my occupation.
Well, you're huge in Europe though, right? Like you're like the David Hasselhoff of bourbon podcasts and YouTubes.
No, there's a couple guys in like Norway that watch my video.
No, I think you're being modest.
But,
you're huge.
I don't think I'm not huge. Bourbon Sipper is definitely a lot bigger. So
yeah, we got some people. That's for sure.
So let's see. What do we want to start with? We have Whistle Pig, we have Maker's Mark, Cask Strength, and New Riff.
Yeah, and
what do you think is going to be the lighter of the three to start off the store pick versus standard bottling?
I think probably the Maker's Mark. So we picked it to be sort of a smoother, sweeter bourbon. So I think I'd probably start there.
Okay. You got both bottles over there?
Yeah. So
sweet. So we will. So this is batch 2003, and it's 54.9% ABV. Is that a screw? Yeah, it is. Okay. I did not drink hardly any of this. I bought this for my wedding, and it was a big hit with the guests. So I've tried it, but I haven't not that familiar with it. And then this is actual Bourbon Sippers pick, right?
Yeah. So this is one we did with a local store here in town, Jig's Liquor. It's called the Golden Ticket. The idea behind it was that, for those of you who are familiar with it, you do the stave picks, and you can add, there's like 4 or 5 different staves that you can add to the barrel. Mocha was sort of not going to be available anymore, so we wanted to do something that focused on the mocha stave. Mm-hmm. But they brought in enough dryness from like the spice stave and the cuvee stave that it sort of balanced it out, but we really wanted to focus on that sweeter note for it. So I thought it'd be a nice contrast here with kind of the standard.
Nice. Yeah, so the store picks are all individual casks. And is the cask strength an individual cask, or is it technically a batch?
It's a batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I personally, I don't like when they call it cask strength if it's a batch. I feel like I like the term batch proof better because I feel like when they call it cask strength, it makes me think it's a specific cask.
Okay.
But
all right, I get that.
I understand where they're going with it.
Yeah, different ways of saying the same thing, I guess. I think mostly it was always barrel proof. I think cask strength I've seen more recently.
Yeah,
as people are trying to do something different.
Right. Yeah, you want to stick that other bottle over here so they can know. So I've got them respective to where the bottles
Yeah, so
are.
do I.
Okay, cool. So on the regular one smells good, honestly.
I was just about to say it doesn't smell like anything. So
It
smells like lemon. Like it's very citrusy to me on the nose, and it's very like,
but it's really
kind of
light.
Dry cedar shaving.
It's really light. So the reason I wanted to bring up this topic is because I mostly focus on Scotch, and that barrel picks aren't really a thing in the Scotch world. There's independent bottlers, but there's no store picks really for Scotch. So, you can't go to Total Wine and get Total Wine's store pick of Macallan 18-year-old.
Right.
That doesn't really exist. And I've personally always kind of thought with bourbon that my opinion is that it edges out people of the community, because you see all these reviews or posts online of like, oh, this amazing store pick from such and such. And it's like, okay, well, great. No, I can't buy that because I don't, I live in Podunk, wherever, and none of the stores here buy barrels, and I'm stuck with the standard run-of-the-mill bottling.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see that. I think, when I first started drinking whiskey about 10 years ago, there wasn't very many store picks at all. Everybody was chasing the allocated stuff. They were chasing, Pappies and BTAC, and
which they still are, but
yeah, they still are. But nobody
finds
find it, right? And so this is sort of turned into the replacement for those, because everybody, I think, is within at least driving distance typically of a place that you can buy a barrel pick.
Okay.
And so this has sort of been the new thing. I know guys now who have huge collections that all they buy are store picks. That's it. And I pick so many barrels now that's pretty much all I buy. But it's unique, but you can actually find it.
So on the regular makers, I think you're right. I think the nose is really weak. It's just citrus, a little bit citrus. I don't get many of classic weeded bourbon notes of like sugar, cookie, or any of that stuff.
I tend to get a lot of orange peel in weededs, and I definitely get like some orange peeling notes on this one as well. It's not an offensive bourbon, but it's not one that I would go back to if it was set on my shelf very much. It's everything that Makers is, just a little bit hotter. And I think that's the difference when you get into some of these store picks, which we'll see in a second with the Golden Ticket. It's just an entirely different product. Right. This is very definitely Makers. The other one is Makers, but it's so heavily tweaked that it's just entirely different.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is I haven't drank a lot of Makers, but I do feel like this is very much everything that you get normally with Makers, just light citrus. You get a little bit of the weeded, not much oak. Honestly, it doesn't taste very old. Do you know how old Makers typically is? Like 4 to 6 years?
I think it's in that range, yeah.
But there's literally no finish. No. When I taste it, like it's pleasant flavors, but there's zero finish. Like as soon as I'm done, it's gone. Like I wouldn't even know that I just took a sip of whiskey.
Do you get that like weeded funk though? Like there's a funky kind of moldy aspect almost to weeded bourbons. It smells like dirt a little bit in a good way, and I definitely get it with this. I think it's more prominent in older ones. Yeah, you still get a lot of grain forward on this one, but it's got a little bit of that rustic quality to it.
Yeah, it does. I would compare it to like, I don't know. I do get a little bit of the warehouse kind of bungy, moldy, mildewy kind of aroma, but normally I get that with older whiskeys, like where they've been oaked a long time, but this doesn't taste oaky at all.
Right.
So yeah. But on the Golden Ticket.
That's an entirely different nose, man. It's like maple syrup and like chocolate and dark fruit, like for days.
Yeah, no, this is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you could, smelling these side by side, you wouldn't even know that these were both from the same place.
You wouldn't.
You would have no idea. And I think that's what's really cool about the Maker's private selections is you just come up with your own formula and it's entirely different. Now, sadly, we came out with this and we were like, yeah, this is great. And then like 2 weeks later, I think Total Wine had one with the exact same recipe But
Well, then I'm gonna go buy some of that.
ours is
too.
better. Ours was better. Ours was better.
So, you said this is using the mocha staves?
Yeah. So you essentially have, I think you have 10, right?
Yeah.
I think you have 10 staves that you can add to the barrel.
Yeah. So this is stave profile 23041. So 2 is baked American pure, 3 is seared French cuvee, 0 is Maker's 46, 4 is roasted French mocha, and 1 is toasted French spice. That mocha, I think it's that mocha stave.
It jumps out at you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way you do this is they send you a kit and it has all of these different sample vials that are from barrels with just those staves. So you get ones that are just mocha, just spice.
Oh, okay.
And then you have to go through and you taste them and you sort of figure out what you like. And then they just go blend it, like come up with something. Well, there's endless combinations, so it's kind of chaos. It took 3 hours, I think, to get to the formula that we wanted it to be.
So when I've helped with barrel picks in the past, they've sent, like I did a 1792 foolproof pick. They sent us like 5 samples of barrels, and then you just picked your favorite. But this is, they're actually sending you samples that are only using one stave profile. And then you're picking the proportions that you want of those blended together.
Yeah, so they give you like a little eyedropper, and you just put squirts in. So you put, for this, we put 4 squirts of the chocolate mocha and, 2 of the French cuvee or 3 of the French cuvee, whatever. And you just have to assume that that's sort of what it's going to taste like after they age it. It tastes a lot more integrated, though,
right,
when those staves are put in the barrel and they age it.
So how long are they doing the staves for? Because you didn't do this 4 years ago.
No. So it's essentially Maker's Mark, cast strength, already aged. And then they just add those staves in for an additional, I think it was like 3 or 4 months. Something like that in that range. Somebody can.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I might be wrong on that, but.
Well, this is like 10 times better.
It's
regular
it's
Makers.
an entirely different pour.
The regular Maker's cast strength is better than standard Maker's Mark, but it's mostly just higher alcohol.
It is, yeah. It's just more booze. That's all it is. It's the same thing, just amped up a little bit, but you add some of these different flavor staves to it, and I think it's just entirely different pour. And I like this better than some of their special releases too that they've come out with the unique stave finishes. I'm kind of a little biased because we picked it.
Yeah.
But I really like the influence of the mocha without it being too sweet. You still get enough of the balance from the cuvee. The cuvee tends to bring a lot of dryness to it, and I think it balances out nice with the mocha.
Yeah, this reminds me of actually this year's Handy, the Thomas H. Handy. I got just the fruitiness, the dark berry kind of quality to it of the wheated.
And I knew we had a good bottle of this when you decided to buy it, because I can't usually convince you to buy bourbon.
Yeah.
You seem very unimpressed by most of my bourbon selection. So,
well, the problem is I drink little enough bourbon that typically what I do get is stuff that's limited editions. I there's a few things, like I really like Woodford Double Oaked. I'll buy that, repeatedly because it's just a good solid bottle.
It's like dessert, man. It's
Yeah.
like hazelnuts.
Yeah.
It's like dessert.
And Prohibition, like 1920, like there's a few bourbons that are readily accessible that I'll buy frequently, but it's Scotch is too much. There's too much Scotch to try. I don't have time to try all the bourbons. So
I think I didn't I sort of introduce you to whiskeys? Like, or at least I got you, like, when I first knew you, you didn't have hardly any Scotch. I think I started part of this.
So yeah, I mean, you definitely helped further so when you first met me, I was working at Dorn's, and I found whiskey going to Ireland a year before I started working at Dorn's. And so I went to Ireland, Jameson Distillery, tried whiskey for the first time, and fell in love with it like right away. Like I was just like, yeah, this is it. I didn't like beer or wine or anything at that point. So that was like the first alcohol I tried that I was like, oh, this is really good. And but I wasn't 21 yet. So I waited until I came back, like 6 months, and then when I was 21, I brought back some whiskey with me. I brought back Redbreast 12 cast strength, actually. And I didn't drink it until my birthday. And then I started like really reading about it and but I was too poor to afford any of it. So I had like 3 or 4 bottles.
Right. Yeah.
I had like Jack Daniel's single barrel. I had the Redbreast, which I like never drank because it was $90 and I couldn't afford to replace it. I got like Speyburn 10-year-old, like just a couple of like all like $20, $30 whiskeys pretty much. And then I started working at Dorn's as their whiskey expert, whiskey enthusiast, not expert.
Right.
I didn't really know that much.
Yeah, I remember going in and you asked me like if I needed any help, and I remember thinking, yeah, I know probably a lot more than you do at this point.
Yeah.
But I feel like I at least nudged you because I remember bringing in
sure.
bottles to tastings and stuff and letting you try stuff, and I somehow pushed you in the wrong direction because you ended up with Scotch. And
no, I mean I'm just pickier with bourbon for whatever reason. There's very few Scotches that I don't like, but there's quite a few bourbons and ryes that I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, see, there's a lot on both sides that I'm not a big fan of. I've become kind of a snob, I think, in the past like 3 or 4 years. So do you think there's any correlation between like what you tried first and what you end up loving? Because you tried a malt whiskey first.
So what they did at Jameson was to sell you on their product was they gave you, and they don't tell you at the distillery, but I've hence figured out by talking to other people who have done the same tasting experience, who were like more familiar with whiskey when they did it, that basically what they do to trick you into thinking Irish whiskey is the best thing since sliced bread is they give you 3 samples at the end of the tour, and they give you Jameson, and they give you Johnny Walker Red Label, which is rough.
Yeah, that's you were
to
kind.
put it politely.
You were kind, yeah.
And they give you, I think it's Jack Daniel's for the American whiskey. I'm not sure if it's Jack Daniel's or if it's, I think it is Jack, regular Jack.
So they give you their product and then the worst
of like the other two, right?
Yeah, the remaining categories. Okay.
Yeah. And so basically the perception, because most of the people doing this tasting are not familiar with whiskey. So Jameson right away is much smoother than either of those 2 products. It goes down like silk comparatively. And so when you don't know anything, you're like, wow, this is better. This is like way better. I'm going to buy a bottle of Jameson. And then they're like, see, Irish whiskey's better, Then,
I like that. That's sneaky.
Yeah, it is sneaky. And, I talk about that like when I do tastings for people is you have to get away from the perception that smooth is better. And when you're first starting out, that is going to be what's better to you, right? Is like, because otherwise it's just going to burn and like you're not going to enjoy it. So smooth is going to be better at first. And then you start to appreciate the flavors as you get adjusted to the alcohol. But
yeah, that's a whole other podcast we should do is whiskey terms, because I think smooth is one of those words that sort of drives me crazy. Like I don't understand what
it means.
Yeah, because I mean I feel like that's what everybody goes to when they just sort of want to like generically describe a whiskey, like oh, it's smooth, like this is really smooth. I'm like, it's 147 proof, it's not smooth. Shut up. Don't tell me that's smooth.
I do have a trouble not describing certain whiskeys as smooth just because I hear so many other people use that term.
We're gonna fight a lot.
I inadvertently use it. Like this golden ticket is pretty smooth.
It's very smooth. Yeah, very smooth. Like mocha. Smooth like mocha. Oh no, John, are you okay? Yeah. It wasn't as smooth as you thought it was, apparently.
No.
Yeah. I think kind of getting back to the bourbons here, like I think if you drank, correct me if I'm wrong, if you drank the Golden Ticket,
right,
I don't think you would ever want to drink standard
you
Makers.
You would never buy another bottle of Maker's Cask Strength again, especially because the store pick is $10 more. $15 more, I
think, right around there. Yeah,
it's 70, and I think the Maker's Cask Strength is 55 or 60.
Yeah.
I don't care if $10 is a decent, for some people $10 difference in a bottle is significant, but it's so much better. Like I mean, like you would think that in comparison, that if I told you that the Golden Ticket was 70 and then I poured you the Maker's Cask Strength, you would think it was a $20 bottle.
Yeah, and we should say too that the golden ticket, the private select is barrel proof as well.
Right.
So you're not really losing any of the bite. You're not losing any of the,
No.
kind of the alcohol burn.
But those extra staves, as much as like when people add fake aging to whiskey with like little wood chips and stuff, as much as that is like total bullshit and doesn't really do anything except make it taste like wood, the staves program that Makers has going on is really, it's on point. Like, it works.